everyone. Today I'm going to start on my series of films from 1973, 50 years ago. What were films like then? How did I look at them then? I was in my early 20s in 1973 and a fanatical moviegoer. I did a series last year on the films of 1972, and I found them to be just so much fun. And for me personally, as far as how I reacted to films back then and when I was in my 20s and what they look like to me in my retirement years, but also as a portrait of a year, where you just don't pluck a movie out from here and whatever year. You see them all sort of in the context of the year in which each of these films were made. So today I'm going to start out with the big time Oscar winner, and this is The Sting. This is directed by George Roy Hill, stars Paul Newman and Robert Redford and Robert Shaw. And it's the story of an elaborate con, and something like this had never been done in films before. This is being set in 1936. Paul Newman is the experienced big-time con man, and he takes Robert Redford under his wing because they're going to con this New York gambler who has come to Chicago to look after his business interests in Chicago. But this gambler was responsible for the death of a friend of theirs that they really looked up to. So this big elaborate con, and this is big time abilic con, this is basically for revenge. I mean, they're going to make a lot of money as well, but the impetus for this elaborate setup is to get revenge. And so there is some basis in truth. The Paul Newman character is based on an actual character, I think of the same name, Henry Gondorf, who was a con man. In the 30s and 40s, you could get away with this kind of stuff. I guess it's improbable, but it really doesn't matter because this is it may be a fanciful story, but it's so doggone entertaining. The con and how it's set up and the elaborateness of it. There's also, not only is this gambler being conned, but the audience is conned a few times too, especially one big con. It's played for fun. This is a fun movie. This is a film. It's sort of a comedy, and it's played to ragtime music. And this had some blowback from music critics that said the 1930s was not ragtime. Ragtime was the early 1900s, the 1900, 1910. Scott Joplin was basically unknown, and they used his rags to score the film done by Marvin Hamlish, who was one of the Academy Awards. This film winning 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, but also for the music score. It's very well done because there's sort of segues where we get like title cards, trying to evoke an old time spirit, and the music is very prominent in between in these segues, but there's no music underneath the dialogue, which I always love. I can't stand dialogue being drowned out by the music score. And one of the theme to Ragtime became a top 10 single hit in 1973. So the movie, and it moves fast. It's a movie. I remember seeing it in '73. It was a big hit with audiences. Everybody went out in such a great mood, going home and leaving the theater. I was delighted as well. I mean, and it was well rewarded. As I said, it got the Best Picture. It got Best Director for George Roy Hill. Best Screenplay for David Ward. The editing, the costumes also won. The production design. It's a beautiful, beautiful recreation of 1936. And the screenplay by David Ward was thought by everybody who read it that this is a perfect screenplay. I mean, this is just the dialogue. It's just beautifully constructed. And David Ward wanted to direct the film, and the producers of the film, Michael and Julia Phillips and Tony Bill, who'd been an actor, he'd been in Come Blow Your Horn with Frank Sinatra. But they were basically new. Redford, to get Redford on board, he said, "This is too complicated a production. You know, you gotta hire somebody who for me to be in the film, you gotta hire somebody who has some real experience in that." So George Roy Hill read the script. He loved it. Redford and Paul Newman had worked Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid together with Hill. They both were confident that he would be able to guide this production. This is a film of Hollywood craftsmanship all around. Like, these Academy Awards were really well earned as far as Hollywood craftsmanship, because everybody, and when the supplements on this Blu-ray 4K, everybody was so into making this film. They all thought it was just a terrific script. Everybody enjoyed each other's company. And that's vital to the believability of the movie, that everybody is on board with this big elaborate con. And we also have big movie stars, and I missed the movie star era. And this was probably a time of big time movie stars, especially Robert Redford. Redford was in his prime at the time of this thing, and he'll have some more big hits coming with 3 Days of the Condor and All the President's Men. Butch Cassidy, his film with Newman was a huge hit. Robert Shaw is great in this part. He gets the top billed credit. Redford, Newman, and Robert Shaw. He plays the Mark with an Irish accent, and he's also got a limp. And it looks in the beginning, it looks kind of, why he's doing this limp. Well, he wasn't supposed to be that wasn't in the script, but Shaw had a severely injured ankle playing tennis or something. So he said, you can get somebody else, because I'm having too much pain. It's going to look crazy to me. But George Roy Hill went with it. He said, "Yeah, let's go with it," and it works. It does work. So David Ward would go on to direct. He did get his chance to direct with Cannery Row almost 9 years later, with Nick Nolte and who is Deborah Winger. A movie I would love to do a video on, because I liked it when that came out, but it didn't. That was not a hit. He also wrote the screenplay to one of my favorite films of the 1980s, Milagro Beanfield War, which Robert Redford directed. Robert Redford wasn't in that movie. But Michael and Julia Phillips went on to produce Taxi Driver and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But then she became persona non grata, Julia Phillips, because of drug addiction. And she wrote a famous memoir in the 1990s, "You'll Never Eat Lunch in This Town Again," because of all the bridges that she burned behind her. George Roy Hill himself would not really have another big hit movie. I think he only made 6 more movies of varying degree, though all of them are worth seeing. But certainly the 2 Redford-Newman movies were his big hits, and the movies that he's probably most remembered for. But the supporting cast was also incredible. Ray Walston, Eileen Brennan, Charles Durning, Harold Gould, Robert Earl Jones. That sounds sort of familiar. This is the father of James Earl Jones. His voice sounds exactly the same. And Robert Earl Jones's film career was stymied by The Blacklist in the 1950s. So I don't remember ever seeing him before, though he does have other film credits. But overall, this is really a example of Hollywood entertainment at its best. I think even today this thing might delight you on as far as the story goes, as far as the charismatic actors and the period recreation. Now it's on 4K. I watched the 4K. It's not on. It doesn't include Dolby Vision, which always disappoints me. I don't know for those of you who have 4K television setups. I always struggle, especially with HDR, in getting the right settings. Because I can't stand the plasticky look of some 4Ks, even though I have recommended, settings for everything. I always had to tinker with it. And I had to tinker a lot with this 4K. It took me about 15, 20 minutes at least before I got it the way it looked like filmic to me. And then it looked beautiful. I mean, it was filmed with some filters, so it's not the sharpest image, especially in the interior. Some of the scenes evidently were a little bit out of focus. And of course, 4K picks up all of that stuff, but in the exteriors, the detail was amazing. I loved reading all the advertising signs that were painted on the sides of the building. I mean, Henry Bumstead, who did the production design, he didn't leave any stone unturned. He really earned his Academy Award, because this is just delightful to look at as far as that recreation. So overall, good start to this 1973 series with The Sting. But next up will be The Day of the Jackal, and this is a thriller by Fred Zinnemann, and it's another elaborate plot. This is a plot to assassinate Charles de Gaulle. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are always welcome. Take care.